The European Union ambassador to the Gambia clarifies publication on the issue of gay and lesbians. Closure of businesses to cope the spread of the COVID-19 complicates unemployment situation in Egypt. DR Congo government insists on defeat on epidemics despite challenges faced by the health sector. This and more coming on The World Today. Hello, this is Africa TV. You are watching the World Today News Bulletin. I am Amadou Kante. Many thanks for joining us, and now the news in detail. Head of the European Union delegation in the Gambia has clarified our Monday publication that the EU had begun a campaign for the rights of lesbians and gay under the hashtag Break the Silence. In two Facebook posts, the EU delegation said over the weekend that one may not agree with someone's personal choices and preferences, but the gay and lesbian Gambians are first and foremost Gambians. EU Ambassador to the Gambia, Attila Lajos, noted that the news was not accurately presented.
So in short, what would you like to correct in the publication that EU is actually defending the rights of the LGBT?
Actually, in the news item you posted, the biggest problem was that the news item was factually not entirely correct. And secondly, the news item suggested as if the issue of LGBT rights was a precondition for the European Union development assistance. And that's not the case. And that's what I wanted to clarify here.
Let me ask this question, because you may know that you've quoted the Gambia 1997 Constitution very well, that it advocates for equality. And then we also know that the Criminal Procedure Code in the Gambia criminalizes the issue of LGBTI. So where does this place the European Union in commemorating the rights of the LGBTI?
It's important to underline that whilst the Gambia has its constitution where you have certain provisions including non-discrimination, which is like sacrosanct in the 97 Constitution, and I believe will remain also in the new one. It is also important to underline that at the same time, Gambia is also party to different international treaties and conventions. Now, the nature of international law is that they actually override national law. So if Gambia signs an international treaty, becomes a party to a treaty or convention, the Gambia takes over certain responsibility in order to make sure that the provisions in those international agreements are domesticated and built into the local laws and regulations. In that sense, indeed, the mechanism which is reviewing these obligations of every country who are members to these treaties and covenants, or party to these treaties and covenants, the mechanism already detected in the criminal code about the aggravated homosexuality is one of these issues.
So
now, when we have the political dialogue with the country government, these are the issues we put on the table and remind the government, the country, for its obligation to fulfill these commitments vis-à-vis the different international treaties.
EU Ambassador to the Gambia, Attila Lajos, they are speaking. Well, full interview of his reaction on Thursday will be published or aired in our tomorrow's news editions. Well, A young Nigerian is using his skills to invent fashion drums into hand-washing basins to help control the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. He uses waste materials to make good business out of this during the COVID-19 period. Well, above all, the young man is happy that he is contributing as a part in the fight against the coronavirus. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Adams Bangwoshe is only 10 months old in recycling, and business is really booming for him this season. He reuses waste materials such as tire and metal drum in making essential products. But the specially carved hand-washing drums with fitted soap dispensers have now become his signature.
I felt I could explore using my creativity and artistry in creating something that can be essential to curb the spread of COVID-19 in Nigeria. Those drums are not useful to the manufacturers that use the products in them. So as a recycler, instead of them bending them or selling to those that will turn them into something not valuable, I buy from them, then I reuse them in making something more useful and essential.
Bangwoshe does the entire work from scratch to finish himself, with help from some friends. He made his first hand-washing drum for personal use by improvising with hammer and chisel, forgetting a grinding machine. After posting images of the outcome on social media, he started to get several orders, and from what started off as a single trial, his hand-washing drums are now one of the most sought after by major stores and supermarkets in Lagos.
My target audience are store owners, schools, factories, markets, and places that people visit often to get their daily needs. So what makes my mobile wash hand basin special is the fact that it has an infrared control tap. One does not really need to touch the tap for it to be controlled, and it is mobile, meaning people can bring it out in the morning and bring it in the evening.
Bangwoshe says infusing painting on the drums is a deliberate attempt to encourage hand washing at a critical time like this by making it appear fashionable. He's happy that his innovation is not just fetching him money, but helping to stop the spread of the coronavirus in Nigeria and keeping the environment rid of waste.
From the report there in Nigeria, we come back home because the Youth Empowerment Project organized a project for the production of personal protective gears from the Ministry of Health as their contribution in the fight against the coronavirus. Over 100 tailors trained from different territories at institution took part in the production of face masks through which they could generate some income with support from the European Union. The items were received by the Minister of Health for onwards distribution to frontline health workers. Here is more details of that in this report.
A group of young Gambians are proving their potential by providing personal protective equipment to the Ministry of Health in the fight against the global pandemic. The Minister of Health, Dr. Amadou Lamin Samate, in receiving the package, says that support to frontline health workers is a giant step in the fight against the coronavirus. He noted that 70% of the confirmed cases of the COVID-19 were recorded in quarantine centers.
70% of the positive cases we registered in the Gambia were from those who were already on the quarantine, especially those along the borders, to ensure that the border closure is maintained so that we do not register more imported cases in this country. I'm sure you realize that most of the cases we are getting now are coming across the land borders, and if we all endeavor to make sure that the land borders are no longer porous, that means Gambia is not likely to get more and more COVID-19 cases, and that is good for all of us.
He further stated that their efforts in dealing with the global pandemic has been yielding dividends which they are proud of, saying Gambia registered the lowest cases in the world. The project funded by the European Union featured the delivery of face masks, protective suits and face shields, all made in the Gambia on Wednesday. Similar to the production of protective suits and shoe coverings by 20 returnees through the IMO Reintegration Assistance, these face masks were produced by 107 tailors in the rural Gambia. The producers attend skills training from the President International Award Scheme, Inside Training Center and Fajara Training Center.
Equipment to the Ministry of Health. The equipment includes 500 protective suits and shoe covers, 1,000 face masks and 100 face shields. But this is just the first lot. It is part of a larger contribution of 45,000 masks, 2,000 suits that are being produced under the EU-funded projects, including the Youth Empowerment Project, YEP, implemented by International Trade Center, ITC, and also the EU-IOM Joint Initiative for Migrant Protection and Reintegration, implemented by the International Organization for Migration. While the donation is to the government, of course, represented by the Honorable Minister, the protective suits and shoe covers are primarily intended for frontline immigration and border officials. And I appreciate the presence of representative from the Ministry of Interior. The face masks are for frontline workers and other exposed professionals, while the face shields, in those boxes behind, are primarily for medical staff. Besides being funded by the European Union, the different types of equipment have one more thing in common. They are all made and produced in the Gambia.
Minister of Trade and Employment, Bai Lamin Job, expressed delight for the application of skills through the Youth Empowerment Project. He also commended the EU for coordinating efforts through the various projects to support the fight against the COVID-19.
My ministry appreciates the partnership and will closely collaborate with ITC and IOM in implementing the various income-generating activities for the youth and the returnees. Through the Youth Empowerment Project and She Trade in the Gambia project, my ministry has been working closely with ITC to support the development of youth and women-owned enterprises, as well as development of skills to enhance the employability of youth and women.
These items are expected to enhance the availability of basic supplies of protective gears for frontline health workers, which will in turn generate some income for the small businesses involved in the production. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Aminata Job.
Gambian youth presented materials to the Minister of Health in the fight against the COVID-19 in the country. Now with that, we'll now take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of this story. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Badingol men be Gambia anin Gambia e bantala mbe nga nyillon ko TRRC bala doko sallabang le kono andi la doko be lori men kan wala hadama dingol men na nyanto tinyata nyim banko kanjang kabirin July karo 1994 sangola kana January karo 2017 sangola woto momo yalon ko e mantorata nyi wato kono andi man futa TRRC follow pour que la kuma kan di safo me statement no ye fere ke ye futa TRRC ye la kuma kan di ataria nyama yo pour kana TRRC ye fen kenam pasoti kana futa je wala fen dépense pour ka futa TRRC ke la kuma kan di abe sendile male barembe nyim fanan ko en la ko pour ka statement no fanan di amanke ko momo yela kuma kan di TRRC ibelo la television o nyatole mobe jube wotude tele bulu ni laptop ka testify mobe yela moy mobe je ise o kenole bar ni man la fo fananna ise kuma kan dinole ayatra molke kan moy barete nyaada jela nindu man la fo fananna ise sino inin commissional damma aliye kacha ayatra mote bole kalama andu nimme lafta kanyinke ise katoke yin telephone number kumandi pour ka TRRC sotono 7704988 7704988 8888 wala 741 5937 741 5937 ala baraka mo be sa dake TRRC dokot.
Welcome back. You are watching the World Today News Bulletin on iAfrica TV, and now to the rest of the stories. Now, the Ministry of Health dismissed claims by leader of the opposition Gambia Moral Congress Party that the coronavirus quarantine centers are classified prisons for lack of basic human needs. Gambia government announced the investment of millions of dollars meant to maintain a conducive environment for people under quarantine, but this wasn't what Mai Ahmad Fati experienced. Meanwhile, the health ministry shared justifications on the good condition of isolation centers. Let's have more details of that in this report.
The Ministry of Health has dismissed claims by the leader of the opposition Gambia Moral Congress Party that the coronavirus quarantine centers are in a very bad condition. Mai Ahmad Fati, after completion of his compulsory isolation on account of recent travel from Senegal, held a press conference during which he described the quarantine centers as prison, where one meal is served per day, in addition to lack of hygiene in the facilities. Mr. Fati has insisted that he was speaking based on experience, that facilities as basic as face masks was not provided to the people in the quarantine centers.
How do we expect people to be isolated on the quarantine and they're not even provided with face masks? That is the basic. That is the basic. You expect that to happen. I'm not sure whether authorities are aware, but that is my experience. That is my experience. If we do not do something about their welfare, there is growing despondence among them. These people work very long hours and they are paid with pittance. I want to assure you that in my conversation with many of them, some of them even borrow, they go and loan depends. They go and borrow just to go and for their families to be fed. And yes, of course, you are provided with meals. You know, you are given 1 meal a day. In this month of Ramadan, they provide 1 meal a day. You know, and those who are not fasting, you also get 1 meal a day. That is what happens.
However, in a press release read by the Director of Health Promotion and Education on Tuesday, the ministry countered all allegations from the GMC leader as unfounded. Modunjai stressed that the Ministry of Health is of the view that the opposition leader spoke to mislead the public.
The Ministry of Health would like to urge the general public to disregard this information as all the all the quarantine facilities with hotels, they all have hotel standards, such as beds are available, standard beds are available, television sets are available, air-conditioned rooms, dining tables, refrigerators, chairs, shower, and room services, as well as health services such as psychosocial and medical care during quarantine.
Regarding the payment allowance of the frontline workers, the Ministry of Health responded that all medical personnel are civil servants and are paid on monthly basis without any delay. On the issue of food shortage, Director of Health Promotion and Education said 3 square meals is served per day, as opposed to the claim by Mr. Fati.
Mr. Fati was given the exceptional privilege to cook his food, his choice of meal, whenever he feels like doing so at the quarantine center. While on quarantine, he has been given the privilege to be able to have his own food prepared by the wife for his own consumption. That is something that we have given him as a privilege. In the Gambia, the government through the Minister of Health is using our mega national resources to provide standard hotels as quarantine centers at no cost to the persons on quarantine for a period of 14 days. This is not the case in many countries where persons on quarantine have to foot their own bill of all services provided. In some cases, persons on quarantine are lodged in schools, stadiums, or in prisons.
He noted that the Ministry of Health does not restrict any person in quarantine from access to basic facilities like clothing and communication with families and loved ones. In the Gambia, it is compulsory for one to undergo a 14-day quarantine upon return from any COVID-19 hotspot. Government of the Gambia has since in April spent millions of dollars to several hotels for the purpose of isolation on suspected cases of the coronavirus. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Aissatou Tamba.
And from the report there by Aissatou Tamba, next we head to Congo because the Democratic Republic of Congo's government stands resolute to ending the impact of several epidemics in the country despite the outbreak of the coronavirus. In the last 2 years, several diseases, including Ebola, have killed more than 8,000 people, but authorities are on course to control the situation. Donor agencies are providing humanitarian assistance to complement ongoing efforts to educate the public on measures to stem the spread of the disease. Let's have more details of that in this report.
The DRC has been struggling to end multiple epidemics over the past 2 years. More than 8,000 people have died of Ebola and measles since 2018. The outbreak of COVID-19 in March this year further strained the country's already overstretched healthcare system. But the government believes it can control the epidemics with the expertise it has gained.
The fight against epidemics in our country is being dealt with by scientific methods. We've gained a lot of experience in handling infectious diseases over the years. We will defeat these diseases with the community's involvement.
The World Health Organization says low-income countries experiencing conflict like the DRC are the most challenged by the COVID-19 pandemic. This was revealed at the 73rd World Health Assembly in Geneva. But donors have come to the country's rescue by funding emergency programs to limit the spread of diseases.
We are now carrying out campaigns to sensitize the population about the prevention of measles. We have urged parents to take their children for vaccination because there's no other treatment.
While cases of COVID-19 have been rising, the country has made progress in tackling the Ebola outbreak. The last Ebola patient was discharged from a health facility in eastern DRC last Friday.
The DRC has been relying heavily on international agencies for funding to handle the health emergencies in the country. But there's a shortage of medical supplies and protective equipment for health workers, which has put the lives of many of them at risk and complicated the response effort.
From the report there in DR Congo, finally we head to North Africa because Egypt's unemployment rate is gradually increasing amidst the impact of the COVID-19 global pandemic. The North African country shut many industries as part of measures to curb the spread of the coronavirus, leaving many without jobs. Analysts are projecting a 20% unemployment rate by the end of 2020 if the situation remains the same. Here's more details of that in this report.
Until mid-March, Egypt's unemployment rates had been steadily dropping. But from March 17, the COVID-19 pandemic began casting its shadows over the North African nation's economy. In just a few weeks, unemployment spiked to 9.2% from 7.7%.
Before the pandemic, Egypt was moving well in dropping unemployment rates. The latest report showed it went down to 7.7% from 8.1% quarter to quarter. But now, the pandemic is slowing down the economy and production power. Some industries have also been completely frozen.
Egypt has shut education facilities, theaters and cafes. Aviation and tourism are frozen. In-house dining has been banned in all restaurants. Their repercussions have extended to all other industries.
Compared to the global projections issued by international financial institutions, Egypt is well absorbing the pandemic shock. Governmental and non-governmental and private bodies are all collaborating to issue financial support to irregular labor. The central bank is restructuring their debt. The government has been on track to take preemptive measures to diminish the economic impact of the pandemic.
Government has banned layoffs in sectors like tourism and aviation. In return, it's pouring some $6.2 billion to support the most vulnerable individuals and industries. Almost all fields in Egypt have reported layoffs or salary cuts of up to 50% or both. Egypt's workforce has some 29 million citizens. Analysts are expecting up to 20% of unemployment rates if the pandemic's impact stretched to the end of the year. It could get worse when Egyptian expatriates lose their job and return home.
The impact of the COVID-19 increasing unemployment rates in Egypt. Well, viewers, that's all we have for you in this news bulletin. But for more on this and other stories, you can also look on our website on iAfrica.tv. Many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.
man kontaan boy mu ne boy nga nyim bata mu be taki tubabu du boy boy nga nakko do mu be doku boy nga kina nyin kendi moy boy pura e bungulo nyi boro na bungo hani lento am futaje boy de jibe lu njumala ya fanyi koy babun lola ama me ila bungo jibe abadane jara foyte la ta fula nyi man balwo kalam mu balwo fo balwo ko budlo ko fanan kele boy nyim bungo jala be nyamende abe mu balwo la do boy
ñin kunne soniata ta www.baluwo.com anim baluwo isela bulloran jorangol be sang anila kudola asatare mambata jorangol mem ko cemento kenyo babarol nil peruol woni nga nyon jamal ta baluwo.com yin jorangol be sang ila dinkira bado adungite batala je anim baluwo ifangole marate la kudola